What is up, YouTube? And today we have the balance patch that is coming to Epic 7 in about a week and a half. You're going to see that there are 8 characters, including 2 Emerald 5 stars and 4 RGB 5 stars getting changed, with 2 Moonlight 4 stars as well. And we also have 2 5-star artifacts. And you're going to see that the lineup looks pretty interesting. All of these characters definitely need buffs. Let's actually see what they have in store for us today. So we first have DJB, or Desert Jewel Basar, ML Basar, getting buffed. Currently is very weird because he scales with attack on his healing. They are actually just removing all of that. They're just making his healing scale with the target's max health, which is pretty nice. You want to pick him into tankier teams. You'll also see that his soul burn is being reduced from 20 souls to 10 souls, so he can heal a lot more, which is very good. And he also is going to have his S2 reworked a bit. Instead of having that decrease hit chance for 2 turns, he just dispels 2 buffs and gives a 100% chance to decrease CR by 20% on all of the enemies, which is super powerful. I think that this makes a lot more sense in his kit. The only problem is that a lot of the time you're not building effectiveness at all on him, and against slower tankier teams that do use barriers, and pretty much is the only teams you would pick DJB into, they will have effect resist. So I think what they should have done is given him ignore effect resist on characters that have barriers, right? So this like dispel and this CR pushback works even if they don't have a barrier. It's just that when they have a barrier, you're putting barrier inversion, which does damage basically, and also you get an extra turn. I think that they should have put in ignore effect resist as well and made him a very powerful niche barrier team counter. Still good into like Fallen Cecilia and like Adventure Ross, but for the most part, outside of that, you're not gonna really pick him. His S3 barely got changed here, it's just making it so that whenever you get attacked, you have 30% damage reduction when this is available. It used to be just crits, but it doesn't really matter too much. Actually, I guess this matters against characters that can't crit, so might be good in that situation, but not that big of a change. You'll also see that his constellation is being changed as well. Instead of having attack from the Sagittarius one, which was very, very troll, he actually gets a lot more speed and health now from Taurus, which is a pretty big change overall. Next, we have Straze. So Straze basically has this S2 that's getting changed. Instead of dispelling 2 buffs, it dispels all buffs. Sure, whatever. His S3 had like this huge like text wall. Basically, they're just making it so that you just penetrate defense of the target with the highest max health, which is just going to be a lot better. Just guaranteed to penetrate the enemy's defense. So you can actually build him on a lot more speed and not worry too much about attack anymore, which is very good. And yeah, it's just going to make him more flexible. You can just make him faster and just have him still penetrate all defense. Next, we have the RGB 5 stars. So Holiday Yufine, just a very small change. She has an extra chance to burn now to 100%, makes her more consistent on her S1. Also, you'll see that when she is 50% or more health, she gets that evasion now instead of being at max health. This is a pretty huge change. And also, you're going to see that she has this combat readiness being buffed from her S3 from 20 to 25%. I think they don't really realize like the biggest problem with Holiday Yufine is her lack of sustain. So sure, you can put her on a lot of warrior artifacts to give her sustain, such as Golden Rose and Sigurd's Scythe, but she has like this built-in mechanic where she wants to pretty much be sustaining because she wants to be above 50% health now, just for that extra evasion. But the problem is you can't put on lifesteal set because she needs to be fast enough to actually get her S3 off and cut enemy teams, and actually do like her cleansing. So it's a pretty awkward situation for her still. I think they need to just maybe give her an exclusive equipment that makes her S1 like heal a bit, which would probably make her very strong in my opinion. But right now it just feels pretty hard to play. She's very hard to build still, even though she doesn't have that much payoff because you need just really crazy stats. And you also need her on like a plus 30 Golden Rose to make her work because you really need that sustain. Or Sigurd's Scythe is probably better actually. Next we have Tywin. So Tywin honestly is a pretty good character. I think he's very underrated. The way he works is like he protects the character in the back from being stunned and slept. So if you go against teams with any stuns or sleeps, just put your carry in the back, and you can actually cleanse them and also give them immunity, which is very, very good. And you can see that this works every single turn, which is very powerful. After the buffs, it used to be once every 2 turns. The only problem is you might as well just bring like a cleanser with him, because sure, he has this like defense break, but defense breaks are pretty hard to land with Tywin because most of the time you're stacking like health and speed and like defense. So because of that, you're not going to really land this that often. But if you do, it's very powerful because it's a 50% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns, which is very powerful. Before, this S1 was pretty useless. It just dispelled buffs. But yeah, pretty strong. Not pretty strong. It's a pretty decent buffs, but I don't think it'll change anything for him. Next, we have like the main character of the patch, in my opinion. So we have Charles. Now, just to preface before we talk about these changes, Charles was like one of the most broken characters at the start of the game, but he quickly got power crept. He didn't get nerfed or anything. He just fell out of the meta, and you're kind of combating this by buffing him a lot. So first, you're gonna see that his S1 has a chance to dispel a buff instead of decrease attack, which is better, I'd say. Next, you're gonna see that you have a 50% chance to activate your S2 as an extra attack instead of 25, which is crazy, right? And whenever the caster is granted 3 or more buffs, you'll go to 100%. So before it was like 25% chance to activate your S2 into a 50% chance if the enemy is buffed, which is most of the time. Now it's going to be just the base 50%, so you always have that 50%. And when the caster, so if Charles has 3 or more buffs, he will double that effect chance. And stacking buffs on your team is pretty easy. You just have to be very careful against like Harsetti and like stuff like that, and ML Luna, just like the really OP openers. So it's very hard to actually make these buffs stick in the current meta, which is a big problem that we'll talk about. But you know, it is a step in the right direction. Next, you'll see his S2. Instead of having a 100% chance to dispel all buffs, this was pretty OP, not gonna lie. You'll actually see that he can actually absorb some of the damage as health, which means he has built-in sustain, which is a big problem he had in the past. He just, you know, eventually got chipped down to residual damage, but now he has sustain, which is very good. And he also increases combat readiness of all allies by 20% when he lands his S2, which is insane, right? That's a very, very powerful effect, especially because if you're just Elbrus, you know, countering or just countering in general, and you activate like 2 or 3 smashes, suddenly your entire team just got 60% CR, which is a huge swing, right? So I think this is a pretty huge buff to his S2. It makes him a lot better. Now let's actually look at his S3. So AoE attack now still gives attack buff to everyone. Still gives defense buff to everyone as well once you awaken it. So you have 2 buffs to, you know, activate 2 out of the 3 buff conditions for his S1, and then you also get counter attack for himself as well. So you get 3 buffs for himself, 2 buffs for the rest of his team. So he can activate this like 3 or more buffs thing by himself just by S3ing. He gets that attack buff, defense buff, and counter attack, which also means you don't need him on counter set anymore. You can put him on even like lifesteal set. You can put him on speed set if you want. There's a lot of options for you now. You can also even put him on destruction set for more damage, which is probably what most people will do. And yeah, so soul burn this for 10 souls. Cooldowns reduced by 2 turns. Very strong soul burn here because you do want these buffs up. Only problem is, yes, you know, in the current meta, even though he looks very strong, which as a unit he is, in the current meta it's still very hard to use him because, you know, you put up that defense buff, counter attack, you know, attack buff, they just get instantly stripped by anything that has, you know, dispels, or if you have anything on the enemy side that has unbuffable, like ML Luna, you're just pretty screwed as well. So there's a lot of counters to him. So even though on paper this looks like a huge buff, I think it's still going to be pretty hard to use him, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to try. So yeah, exclusive equipment's also getting changed. You know, you're probably going to go for the extra damage on his S2. But yeah, that's Charles's buff in a nutshell. Next we have Fenris. So finally they decide to actually buff him. Doesn't really matter at all. He's just dispelling extra buffs now from his allies, and he also is getting CR push for his team, which is actually pretty good. You can actually use him as a kind of like an opener, but he still will lose to other openers. So yeah, that's that. Next we have General Purrgis' buff. Nothing crazy. This is probably, you know, what it should have been anyways. He now has a 100% chance to inflict provoke instead of 75%. Don't know why it was at 75%, just makes no sense, but finally they give him 100%. And they're making his S3, you know, instead of stunning 2 random allies, you just stun everyone, you know, which is what it probably should have done anyways. And they're also changing his exclusive equipment. Instead of getting that defense buff for himself, he'll actually heal when he uses S1. I don't even know if this is better because the defense buff was pretty good. And the heal, I guess it can be okay, but sure. Assassin Cartuja, same thing, just probably what it should have been. He has a 100% chance to inflict provoke now, and you're going to see that he will do extra damage based on his health. So you could just stack him with health now and defense, and he will do somewhat more damage. 2 artifacts being changed. This literally doesn't matter at all. This is going to be Hwayong's artifact. It's being changed, so if a non-critical hit is made when attacking with a single attack, you know, you used to do a burn. Now it's just whenever you're attacking. This is going to be good on like Holiday Yufine if you put her on a no crit like burn build. The only problem is she doesn't have a way to not crit. Like, you always have that 15% chance to crit, so it might be annoying, but you know, it will be pretty good because you have that attack buff as well. I think that's what you'll most likely be running on her, that or the Guild Wars artifact. Then we have Glow Wings. This is being changed to give a barrier equivalent to level to all allies. I don't think this matters too much at all either. But these are the changes. I think the biggest changes coming are to Charles, but unfortunately in the current meta, I don't think he's going to be that good. We also have some nice changes for Call of Yufine and DJB. Just let me know in the comments down below what changes you are most looking forward to. I personally think that even though these changes look pretty okay, it's pretty hard to use them still in the current meta because we have very OP openers. But let me know in the comments down below your opinions, and I'll see you guys.